And then the other big main story in the X Division is the Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn feud. If you remember, coming off the back of the No Surrender match, Jerry Lynn was the referee of AJ Styles and Sean Waltman. Waltman grabbed the ropes at the end of that match. Lynn kicked his hands off the ropes, and then Waltman was like, "What the fuck, you cost me the match," and stared daggers through him.
And also, I'm pretty sure they're still cutting a promo about it to 2023.
First Impact of the month. There was a backstage segment between Sean Waltman and Jerry Lynn.
What do you mean was in past tense?
They're still talking. So Waltman was mad at Lynn for interjecting himself into the No Surrender match. Lynn ran down the matches they've had, how they changed Waltman's career, but then Waltman went on to great success in WCW and WWF while Lynn kind of meandered through.
In ECW.
And then Waltman was like, "Here, have some money for a Big Mac."
Nice.
So, like, the story being that, like, Waltman hit the big time and left Lynn behind him and forgot the guy that made him. And that's basically the setup here. And they talk for 15 minutes. While Waltman weirdly stands with his hand behind his back.
Yeah, Waltman's like a right pervert here.
There's a real bad energy about Sean Waltman in this segment.
There is that is the most accurate description of Sean Waltman. There's a real bad energy about him here.
The crux of it, though, Waltman challenged Lynn for sacrifice, and Lynn accepted.
So, like, beyond the fact that this was really long and boring, like, my biggest problem with it is that it made Jerry Lynn sound like a big whiny bitch.
Yeah, so you were successful. You left me behind.
You made money. And it's like, I'm not going to root for this guy. I'm going to root for the fucking dickhead who just offered to buy you a Big Mac. He's so much more interesting.
Yeah.
There's like 10 times too where Waltman's like, "This is the final line of the promo," and then Jerry Lynn's, "And another thing."
That happens so often in this thing. It just keeps going, where Waltman does the outline and just like bladdy 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 blah.
And you can even tell that Waltman was like, "Really?
Can we wrap this?" I'm surprised that they weren't like, let's do another take. Let's try that one again.
No, if they did another take, everyone would have died of old age.
I suppose if you don't end the first take, you can't do a second take.
I like to imagine that they all wanted to go home, but then like Scott D'Amore's like, we gotta fill up this episode of TV, keep going.
It's like, the earlier match on the show went 2 minutes short. It's all Joe and Sanjay's
So go
fault.
17 more.
There was a package on the August 5th Impact going through their history. There was some footage from Japan from, I think, the UWF?
I think so. I think that's where they wrestled.
Because they had a bunch of matches there, and I think the timelines match up, so that's where they randomly pulled some footage of Lynn and Waltman. And then that's it, basically. That takes you to the pay-per-view. Jerry Lynn versus Sean Waltman.
To be fair, that's all you need, really.
Yeah, and they basically shot the angle for it at No Surrender. Like, so they have the reason to wrestle.
And also, they really don't want to fly Waltman in.
Yeah, and you go through their history, and they wrestle. And I really liked this match.
It's like one of your favorite TNA matches ever.
Yeah, I put it on the list because that list includes like historical significance and like matches being interesting. And I think this match, I always liked the idea of going back to classic rivalries, because it's one of those things where, well, it could be risky because if you go back to a classic rivalry, people are older and maybe not as good. But it's always a fun idea to be like, these are the two men who did legitimately revolutionize cruiserweight wrestling in the United States. They were doing things fair enough, like stuff like this was happening in Japan and Mexico all the time, but like this style of wrestling did not break into the mainstream until much later in America, and these were two of the guys who helped push that forward. Waltman especially, when he broke onto the WWF and had that really good run as 1-2-3 Kid, and then Lynn had his like the ECW stuff and went on to do the Rob Van Dam stuff, which was super influential in its own way. And then you bring these two back together for a cool pay-per-view match. It's just one of those matches you put on a pay-per-view and it's like, this is a really fun attraction.
And it helps, it's kind of the same thing with Aries and Daniels, where it just fills it out nicely too.
Yeah, and once again, like the X Division becoming the backbone of this company once again, which was what kind of lost it in the dusty years. It's like, well, you're filling out these pay-per-views with random matches, but they're terrible. So, yeah. Whereas they're filling out these pay-per-views with Austin Aries versus Christopher Daniels and Jerry Lynn versus Sean Waltman and Alex Shelley versus Shocker. Like that is a much better way to fill out a pro wrestling pay-per-view than giving me a Sonny Siaki match.
Yeah, 100%.
Jerry Lynn got like the big formal introduction. JB welcomed him back from injury. This was the debut of Jerry Lynn's infamous Ski War theme song.
God, Jerry Lynn is just like the cool uncle.
Yeah, he loves his heavy metal, but also is just a nice, solid, reliable guy.
What was the line that we used all the time?
Destroy the opposition. It's up there with straight up GE directed at Elix Skipper as some of his famous lines. The two are just
Mr. Dork.
Yeah, Mr. Nerd. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Mr. Nerd.
Whoa! Hold your horses, Mr. Nerd. Is it?
Nerd. Is it? Maybe Jerry Lynn's actually the greatest promo of all time.
It's very important to deliver the NWA-TNA. That's right.
That's right.
Signing off. Jerry Lynn, again, like, there's a lot of people who we would have at least 3 memorable lines for in TNA history, and Jerry Lynn is up there, so fair play to him.
Dusty Rhodes, Vince Russo, Jerry Lynn.
The infamous TNA promos.
When Jerry Lynn does his last match for the company, we have to just make the whole intro Jerry Lynn quotes.
Yeah. They did show the Hoovy driver where he got injured in one of those packages, and he got fucking killed on that thing.
It's Hoovy, baby.
But yeah, he got a very nice reception. Mike Tenay walked through like the history of how his own interest in wrestling was waning a little, and then he saw Lynn and Waltman on ESPN and fell back in love. And they go through the history of how like they were the genesis of the X division, and then talk about how Jerry Lynn has been on a year-long road to recovery, and he loves wrestling and he loves Impact and TNA so much that he's been backstage helping out through the entire time he was injured, like setting the stage. I think they did a real good job here.
Yeah, and it's funny because like it doesn't really feel like he's been gone that long.
It doesn't, and it has been over a year, maybe about I think like July-ish last year, maybe tipping into August was the last time we saw him. So it's pretty much a full-on year since he's last wrestled.
Did he ever actually appear on Impact before this? Like, other than in the angles with the AJ and the stuff? Did he wrestle?
He would have wrestled on Impact, yeah, because he was around until August. I'm pretty sure he's at least had one Impact match.
Yeah, okay, he did a couple. Wait, no, that's Jarrell Clark.
Easy to mix them up.
They're very similar. He did the pay-per-views during the same time as Impact, but did he not do an Impact?
Because I can't, off the top of my head, picture him in the Impact zone, so he might not have.
I think he only did the pay-per-views that were running at the same time as Impact, but he never did Impact.
It's interesting. I wonder if there was like a reason he wasn't available.
That's really interesting. So this is technically his first time wrestling in the Impact Zone.
Yeah, or he was already injured because the Hoovy match was, I think, May. I think that was the World X Cup. So he was already hurt and he worked after that. So maybe they were like, we'll save him for the pay-per-views. You won't have him work a 5-minute TV squash, which is all they were doing on TV, not even 5 minutes. So the story, naturally, Waltman hits the shoulder breaker and starts working over Lynn's injured shoulder.
Because he's a dick.
Yeah, but I like that, like, he's not a full dick. He's not like, he does a low blow in this match. So he's the regular Sean Waltman level dick, I think.
Yeah, bad energy.
They do a spot where you see this teased a million times, where you have a guy on the apron and he teases doing a suplex to the floor. And 99 times out of 100, nobody actually does it, because the suplex to the floor from that position would suck. Especially coming over the ropes would suck. These two did it, and you could hear the thud Waltman landed with. It's like, oh, that's why nobody actually does it.
Especially these two old fuckers.
Waltman hits a low blow and an X Factor, but Lynn got his foot in the rope. Waltman takes Lynn up to his shoulders, but Lynn rolls through with a victory roll, picks up the win. And after the match, Waltman bows, they shook hands. Waltman paraded Lynn around the ring before dropping him with a shoulder breaker, draped his shoulder over the rail and hit it with a chair before the X Division lads, who were watching on from the ramp. That was the little story they wanted to tell, that Sabin, Sanjay, and Shark Boy were watching on from the ramp, seeing these guys like do their X Division thing one more time.
I love the idea of Shark Boy being like flashbacks, being like, yes, at the time.
He's taking it in, he's being respectful.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought, like, really good angle. Shame it doesn't go anywhere for various reasons. Doesn't go anywhere. Reasons we'll get into in the next month's episode, but I think it would have set up a real heated rematch between the two. I really like this match. I think it's just two guys going out there who are pros having a pros match, and it's real darn good, and it's real cool to see two guys who were on a different stage get a different stage, like be highlighted as part of the X Division, given they inspired the X Division. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's most of the X Division. There's a couple of random X Division TV matches that we don't even need to bother. Like Matt Bentley beat Shark Boy.